Okay, dude, you ready?
I know words, I had the best words.
My friend James was driving, it's about an hour drive, and I had these brownies, so I just ate them. So we got to the place, and this was my second time doing it, so I kind of understood the groove on some level, how to get into the zone in the isolation tank, or what to expect on some level. So I showered and I prepared to get inside of the tank, and I was in there for about 2 hours. And for the first like 30 minutes, I was pretty stoned. But for like the first 30 minutes, I was just kind of sitting there, just like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm just kind of going through my thoughts. Like, am I just supposed to just... I was restless in a way, like in my head. And I just couldn't think of like what to do, really. Like, I just felt like I had to be doing something, but I didn't know what to do. Trying to stop your thoughts, but like, it's a hard thing to do. Unless you're like, I don't know, someone that meditates a lot or something. But for me, it's a hard thing to do. And, you know, the way it kind of worked was my thoughts were just kind of going. And eventually, when they're just kind of going, you just get lost in them. You know, like when you kind of doze off and you're in a daydream, and like you're in it, you're in the actual daydream. It's like that. And side note, daydreams always have kind of tripped me out. Like the fact that you can be in this state of awareness where I'm aware of everything around me. I can see the TV behind this camera and my, you know, the reflection of the light behind me and all this stuff. And then I can just kind of doze off and also be aware of some strange astral dimension that is being projected from inside of my head that I'm somehow navigating at the same time that I'm aware of this reality. I don't know, it's always tripped me out. After about 30 minutes or so, you get lost in your thoughts in the kind of way that it's almost astral in a way. It's like you're actually living in your thoughts. I remember I was like, I wanted to write a children's book. It's still something I want to do. To like make some sort of cosmic guide to oneness for kids or something like that. And I remember that was like really heavy on my mind at that time. And that was one of the thoughts I had. And while I was in the tank, I was like really able to go really deep into that thought. And I could like become this book. Like I was in like how I imagined the book to be in my head, like the illustrations and stuff like that. I could go into that world and play out the story of how it would be. And I could like, I don't know, it's just really weird. You could kind of like, it's like three-dimensional. Like you're actually in some sort of space inside of your head, your thought realm, your thought space. So I'm sure I thought about other things too. That was one of the things that really was cool to me, where I like caught myself out on it, where I was like, oh shit, that was like cool. I was just like real deep into myself just then. Real deep into like, almost like a waking dream state type of thing. And so your thoughts just keep on coming and going, and you're just doing this. You're just in your thoughts. You're not even paying attention to the fact that you're in the tank anymore. You're just kind of, watching these thoughts kind of go by, but you're engaging in them, and you're feeling the emotions of the thoughts, and you're living through these thoughts. And then after a while, they just go too. They just kind of drift away. You just stop paying attention to them or something, and it just kind of gets really quiet and really like you feel like you're at one with everything. You feel this overwhelming sense of oneness and tranquility and beingness, where all you are at this point is just a point. You're just a point of awareness. You're not really existing in reference to anything, and you're not really thinking about that until like after you catch yourself out on it, like, oh shit, like I was just like, well, I don't even know where I just was just then. It's like the deep sleep state. Like, you know, like we have the waking state, which is this right now, and then we have the dream state, which is when, you know, this, but while we're dreaming. And then we have the deep sleep state where nothing is really there. It's just kind of just pure awareness. It's just a beingness, you know? And it's like that, state, but being awake, which is really weird. It's almost psychedelic in the way, the tank. Not like that you get crazy colors and stuff, although I did see a light at one point kind of just hovering above me. And I remember just staring at it. Because if you don't know what an isolation tank is, for those of you that don't know, sorry I didn't really talk about this yet, but an isolation tank is, it's this big tank that is filled with water. Like, I think about like a foot of water, and it's got like hundreds of pounds of Epsom salt in it, so you're just really buoyant. So you're just kind of floating in it. And it's kind of like the way the Dead Sea works. If you know about the Dead Sea in like Jordan, Israel, and I don't know, maybe Egypt, it's just got a lot of salt in it, so you just float. And the isolation tank works the same way. And they call it a sensory deprivation tank because it strips you of your senses. Completely pitch black, you're in a tank, you lock yourself into a like some sort of NASA-like looking machine, and you just lay in this water, completely dark, no sound, nothing, just you and yourself, and the water is actually heated to the temperature of your body, so while you're floating there, eventually, once you get comfortable, it doesn't feel like you're in water. So it's trippy in a way. It's psychedelic, but not in the kind of way of like, oh man, I'm like traveling through kaleidoscopic geometric tunnels. It's psychedelic in the way that like it just takes you to some really weird places inside of yourself. It allows you to access these dimensions within yourself, these universes within yourself that you don't really get to access in this normal state, because we're so distracted by our thoughts, so distracted by the external world, by our lust, our desires, our greeds, all these things, whatever it is, our jobs, our schools. We're just so distracted and so engaged in this life that we don't really have time to focus on anything else, to focus on this astral side of ourselves, or this whatever it is inside of ourselves, the spiritual side of ourselves, some would say. So this allows you to break the boundaries of that, this isolation tank, especially when you're on weed. For me, I've done it one other time sober, and this weed, this time being on edibles, blew it out of the water. And it did get a little spooky in the beginning, like I had slight little nervous panic attacks, but I talked myself through it, you know, with the help of this little sugar mama in the back of my mind. I knew I can get through anything. So after your thoughts go, you are just still. You are just this point of awareness that is just like, it's the same kind of feeling as when you go outside and like, if you live somewhere that's not in the city and you don't have a bunch of light pollution, or maybe you've gone on vacation somewhere and you're able to see the stars. Like if you live in the city and you left the city and you're finally able to see the stars, like, oh my god, this is what I've been missing. Because where I live, you can see the stars, but not as good as like if you're in Nevada or somewhere out in the desert, or like, you know, somewhere where there's, out in the country where there's not a lot of light. And where I live, you know, I get medium, but when I'm out in the country, like me specifically, I get just lost in the moment, where I just feel one with everything. I literally merge into the moment and just get like, oh my god, I just get thrown into the infinite this, you know, thisness, the infinite thisness that we are in. And then I snap back out of it and oh yeah, I'm in this body, I have these problems, whatever. The isolation tank can give you that feeling of merging into everything, but instead it's like you're just floating through that infinite thisness. It's not like you're staring into it, it's like you become it and you are floating through it. For me, I think 2 hours is the hot spot. I remember the first time I did it, it was like an hour and a half, and I wish I could have just went a little bit longer, because I was really starting to get deep at about that hour and a half mark. Even a little bit over 2 hours. Maybe not your first time. Maybe give it an hour your first time, and just so you can kind of feel it out and be a little bit comfortable with what's going on and not have the anxiety of like, oh, I'm locking myself in some weird water coffin that's going to strip me of all of my ability to hear, see, and apparently feel the boundaries of my body. So feel it out, and then the second time, I think the 2 hour mark is that sweet spot, baby. Get out of here, Wuzzbuzz, you little freak. Get out of here, beast. that don't expect to like get into this state instantly. Like I was like, oh man, I'm gonna lose all my senses and it's gonna be like this crazy, trippy kind of almost natural experience. That's, you know, that's just sounds crazy. I'm really excited about this. But then you get in there and you feel it out, and it's not quite the way people explain it. I feel like people kind of, not that they talk about it in the wrong way, but they, I don't know. But for me, it just wasn't like, it didn't live up to that. Because you can still feel your body until you get past a certain point, until you stop paying attention to things, and then that's when it becomes a trippy experience. But I don't think everyone can do that at first. I think it takes a couple times. So I don't know. That was my isolation tank pot experience, and yeah. If you guys would like to support me, I have a clothing company. It's called Stay Happy, Stay Weird. This is a new T-shirt I just put on there. It's Ohm. I'll put the link in the description. Also, I have a Patreon that I'll put that link in the description also. I leave for India in a week to do a bunch of crazy travel vlogs and get some cool spiritual paraphernalia for my store, like mala beads and cool stuff like that, bead bags, from these holy cities that I'm going to be visiting, like Vrindavan, where Krishna's from, Varanasi, the ancient city where they are still burning bodies out in the open today. I'm excited to dive deep into these sort of ancient culture that's still around. So make sure to subscribe to be a part of that and watch my journey unfold in India. It's going to be real crazy, I think, and I am slightly, I'm not really, I'm obviously a tourist because I don't live in India, but I don't like to do the kind of touristy kind of stuff, so I'm going to be off doing the other weird stuff. So I really think you'll like it, and it's not going to be boring, I can assure you that. So make sure to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Om Shanti 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 Boing.